Welcome to MysteryHQ. I'm back with another Pack-a-Punch Tier 4 testing video from Black Ops 7 Zombies. With the release of Kowakujo, we have 8 new weapons to test, and today we are finding out whether any of them gain secret abilities in Cursed Mode. If you've seen my previous videos, you already know that I have an online spreadsheet and many core elements to test. I'm looking for hidden upgrades like increased fire rate, a larger ammo capacity, reduced recoil, tighter hipfire spread, unique visual effects, or anything else that can change the weapons. To keep the results as accurate as possible, I tested everything without damage boosting perks or melee macchiato. And after spending hours testing every single weapon, let's just say some of the results were a little disappointing. So without wasting any more time, let's start with the Nekomancer. The Nekomancer is Kowakujo's wonder weapon, so I had really high expectations for this one. Unfortunately, they faded pretty quickly. From Pack-a-Punch Tier 1 all the way to Tier 3, the weapon has 40 rounds in the mag and 320 in the reserve. And sadly, that does not increase at Tier 4. Its fire rate also stays exactly the same, emptying a full magazine in about 14 seconds, which roughly means 171 rounds per minute at every Pack-a-Punch level. So after those tests failed, I moved on to things like hipfire spread. But as you can see from the side-by-side footage, there's no difference there either. The weapon is very steady. Next, I tested the charged furball shot because I was convinced it would get some kind of hidden upgrade. Maybe a faster charge time, a longer lasting puddle or something. But again, even at Tier 4, it still takes about 2 seconds to charge, and the puddle stays there for around 6 seconds, just like at every Pack-a-Punch level. The only thing that does feel noticeably stronger is the puddle's damage. It seems to deal much more EOE damage at Tier 4, although that could simply be the normal damage increase. Without damage numbers, it's impossible to say there's more things going on. So at that point, I was already expecting the weapon to have no visible extra ability, but I still tested the melee attack and the standard firing mode. The melee naturally does more damage at Tier 4, obviously, but the melee speed does not change. So after that I compared the normal shot, both against hordes and single zombies, and I couldn't find anything there either. But I even went further, and I started the boss fight and the Dragon Egg relic, which scales everything to round 60. And there, to be fair, I noticed that the Nekomancer starts falling off quite hard in damage around round 60. It struggles to kill Onis and even normal zombies. That said, it's still a pretty solid boss weapon. If you don't want to use the Sokol or the Nova line, which are currently the 2 meta choices, the Tier 4 Nekomancer is probably your next best option. The only catch is that you need to be very accurate, since the dragon has to stay relatively still for you to consistently land your shots. So the final verdict is pretty simple. As far as I could tell, the Nekomancer only gains the standard damage increase at Pack-a-Punch Tier 4. Next is the Path of Sorrows. This is Takeo's katana, which you can only unlock at the very end of Kowakujo's Easter egg. I already have a guide on how to get it, so for this video I focused purely on the upgraded abilities. The first thing I tested was the movement speed, but unfortunately nothing changes. Whether the weapon is unpacked, Pack-a-Punched or fully upgraded to Tier 4, your movement speed stays exactly the same. Next I tested the attack damage. The heavy attack can kill 2 zombies with a single swing, but that's true at every Pack-a-Punch level, even without upgrading the weapon. So then I checked the normal swing. The normal one is still limited to killing 1 zombie at a time. Now at Tier 4 the damage is high enough to make the zombies explode into blood puddles, which can make it look like you are killing multiple enemies. But after slowing down the footage frame by frame, every normal swing was still only killing a single zombie. I also checked the attack speeds. The heavy attacks animation doesn't get any faster, neither does the parry animation that you can use to block the Onyx lightning attacks. So after all the testing, the conclusion is that the Path of Sorrows only seemed to gain the damage increase at Tier 4, which is a big shame for such an iconic weapon. Next up is the PPSH, the new legacy mystery box weapon called the Bloodthirsty Papasha in Black Ops 7. This weapon starts with a fairly small ammo pool, but after pack-a-punching it jumps to 220 rounds in the mag and 440 in the reserve. Then I upgraded it all the way to tier 4, and yes, it does get a hidden ability, and that ability is ammo increase. But here comes the funny part. It only gets 8 extra reserve bullets. That's right, you heard it right. The reserve ammo goes from 440 to 448. Honestly, I don't know whether Treyarch is trolling or if this is simply bugged, because this has to be one of the most underwhelming tier 4 upgrades of all time. What's even stranger is that the 448 is the exact same reserve ammo on the MP40 at tier 4 Pack-a-Punch, which makes me wonder if something was accidentally copied over. You can push the reserve ammo above 500 with the pack mule augment on mule kick, but as a hidden tier 4 upgrade, 8 bullets is crazy work. Of course, I also tested everything else: hip fire spread, recoil and fire rate, and sadly all remained exactly the same. So unless the weapon is bugged, the PPSH tier 4 hidden ability is getting 8 extra bullets. Next up is the XR3 Ion, and I know this weapon is not new, but with Season 4 Reloaded it received the Minigun conversion kit, so that's the version I wanted to test. After the first Pack-a-Punch, it already gets tighter hipfire spread and a much better recoil. But tier 4 adds a couple of extra upgrades. The first is a huge ammo increase. Your reserve ammo jumps from 480 all the way to 700, which is a very noticeable improvement, and I mean better than 8 bullets. The second upgrade is the recoil. The hipfire spread doesn't change any further, but the recoil becomes almost non-existent. You can dump the entire 700 round mag without the weapon really moving, which is pretty insane. Now, I expected the minigun kit to also inherit the fire rate increase of the standard Ion, but unfortunately that's not the case. There's no fire rate increase at all. So the minigun's hidden tier 4 upgrades are increased ammo and 0 recoil. This is the biggest upgrade we have seen so far in this video, so hopefully the remaining weapons keep this trend going. Next up is the new SMG, the CBRS-3. This weapon actually has an interesting mechanic before we even go to tier 4. Normally, you have to manually rotate the magazine after every 25th shot. But once you pack-a-punch it for the first time, that animation disappears and the weapon becomes fully automatic. Now, that's not the tier 4 exclusive upgrade, but it changes how the weapon feels, so I thought it's worth mentioning. As for tier 4 exclusively, I run all the tests and the ammo capacity does not increase, the hipfire spread stays the same, the recoil doesn't improve, and there's no hidden special effect at all for this weapon. Next up is the Grimhawk. I actually had pretty high expectations for this one, because if you watched my previous videos, special weapons usually receive some of the best upgrades. Unfortunately not this one. The Grimhawk does not gain any secret ability. And honestly, I might be imagining things, but at tier 4 it almost feels like the bolts have a slight delay before firing. I never really noticed that at other Pack-a-Punch levels, so if anything it almost feels like a downgrade. The biggest disappointment though is the damage. Even at tier 4 Pack-a-Punch, the Grimhawk already struggles around round 30. Meanwhile, plenty of other weapons remain effective much longer without even needing tier 4. So yeah, I think just move on. Our next weapon is the VX Compact, the new assault rifle. And once again, I think you can guess what's going to be the conclusion. I compared the tier 3 and tier 4 versions side by side, just like in my previous tests, and the hipfire spread doesn't change, the recoil stays exactly the same, the fire rate stays exactly the same, and there's no increase to the ammo capacity either. Now, to be fair, the weapon already holds plenty of ammo, so that's not a huge issue. What did catch my attention though is the firing effect. At tier 4, the weapon gets much stronger purple muzzle flash, which makes it feel like it shoots faster. But after syncing the footage frame by frame, the fire rate is identical. I even tested whether it might secretly fire extra bullets per shot, but I couldn't find any evidence of that either. So in the end, the VX Compact joins the growing list of weapons that only receive the standard tier 4 damage increase with no hidden ability. And finally we have the KRS new marksman rifle, which might be the worst weapon in the game. It just doesn't feel good to use, and after putting it through all the usual tests, I ended up with the same conclusion as the several other weapons before. There's simply no hidden ability. The ammo doesn't increase, the hipfire spread stays the same, the recoil stays the same, and the fire rate is not something that you can test with this, as you have to fire every single bullet yourself. But I still think the biggest issue is how little damage it does against any enemy. And that's every new weapon on Kowakujo I tested at Pack-a-Punch Tier 4. The AN-94 comes with Season 5 to Cursed Mode, so I'm going to wait until the last map with the final testing video. And of course the new melee weapons are still unobtainable in Cursed Mode, so I couldn't test those. Also, if you want to check the spreadsheet, there's a link in the description. So if this video was interesting to you, or if you want to see more zombies testing, guides and breakdown videos like this, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you in my next video.